Okay, we're going to go ahead and start this. So if we could, let's start recording. And if we can go to the next slide. I'd like to welcome everyone. I am Jeff Martin, Director of Communications and Public Affairs for the American Anthropological Association. I am a white male. I would like to add an older white male with graying brown hair. I'm wearing black framed glasses, and I am now actually reporting to you from the cramped confines of my bedroom instead of my apartment kitchen. Such is the life of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Welcome to Acquiring New Skills for Your Job Search. This is a three-part webinar series hosted by AAA and designed especially for those whose jobs or job opportunities have been disrupted due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, it's a three-part series that is running through the month of September. Last week, on September 10th, we had The Art of Persuasion, Articulating Anthropology's Value to a Prospective Employer. Next week, on September 24th, Thursday, again at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we'll be hosting Deep Hanging Out Digitally, Social Media Strategies for the Contemporary Job Market. But today we are, again, I'd like to welcome everyone to Demystifying the Fear Around Job Searches. Next slide, please. Okay, to make this more accessible to everyone, we are going to have a number of features. The first thing I'd like to do is to tell you that we will have closed captioning. And for those of you who are new to Zoom and new to this, if you'll take your cursor and scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a number of icons, and you will see one icon that says closed captioning. Click on that and then select show subtitles, and that will provide closed captioning for you. We're also going to ask visual descriptions, have visual descriptions appear in the slide deck along with the presenter's self-introductions and comments. And as we said, each presenter will describe who they are. We're going to ask everyone to please turn off your video and microphone unless speaking. This helps us for a number of reasons, but mostly, again, for accessibility. We're also going to ask that you take advantage of the chat function. Again, if you take your cursor and go down to the bottom of the screen with all the icons there, you'll click and you'll see the chat function, okay? This is where you're going to post your questions. And if you would, please type the word question, colon, and then pose your question. This helps us quickly identify which are the questions and which aren't. I say that too because the chat feature is kind of an open forum for everyone to chat. It's to add to what someone else is saying. What I love about this and all the webinars that we've had, I'm really thrilled to see that people really do use the chat function. It is not just for the presenters. It's for all of you attendees. And I love how a lot of times the attendees will answer questions themselves. They'll say, oh, listen, I went through that and here's what I did. Or here's a link to a software package that I use that helps. So it's great. There's a great sense of community with that. Lastly, we will be posting all of our resources on the AAA website. And when you go to our website, to the left is the main box. You'll see the Stay Informed tab. And under that, there's a selection for podcasts and webinars. Select webinars, it'll take you right to here. It'll show you the title of the webinar. And there we will be posting our recordings, the PowerPoint slides, the resources, as well as the chat, everything that took place in the chat, including the questions and answers that we will be providing. So without any further ado, let me turn it over to Jenessa.
Hello, everyone. I am Jenessa Spears, a white woman with glasses and long hair. I am in my home office and den in front of a wall of windows that provide a view of our garden. Next slide, please. Welcome to the 6th AAA Career Webinar. Here we are with demystifying the fear around job searches. What are we experiencing when we are searching for a job, and what are some strategies to put our best self forward? The majority of attendees at these AAA career webinars are recent graduates and young professionals who have limited experience with the job market. We expect that this webinar will be particularly helpful for you. The presenters will offer ways to identify emotions and limiting beliefs that could negatively impact your job search. You'll also learn processes that can be immediately integrated to address these messages and approach your search with confidence. Before we get started, I'd like to thank all of the people who helped make this career webinar possible, including our presenters, fellow organizer Elizabeth Briody, and the AAA staff. I would like to acknowledge the staff individually: Jeff Martin, Gabby Dunkley, Nell, Scott Hall, Sean Eiffel, Daniel Ginsberg, and Ed Liebau. This slide shows the webinar outline that you saw displayed on your screens if you joined the webinar before we started. The presenters will speak for about 20 minutes in total. During the presentation, as Jeff said, please open and use the chat to ask your questions. At the end of the presentation, we will do our best to answer as many of the chat questions as possible, and we'll respond to all chat questions in writing and post the responses on the AAA website under the September 17th webinar. We hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I now turn the webinar over to Elizabeth Briody.
Next slide, please. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Briody, and whoops. Gabby, can you go back? Okay. I'm Elizabeth Briody, and I'm a white woman with eyeglasses and short hair, and today I'm wearing a blue top, and I'm in my alcove, a little space in my house with a window. Next slide. However, I am standing in for Elizabeth Holland. Now let me tell you about Beth. Beth has experienced not one, but 2 hurricanes within the last 3 weeks. And today she has no power. So I offered to do her portion of the webinar after she had put in an amazing amount of work into it. So let me give you a sense of why we are doing this webinar about demystifying the fear around job searches. This webinar is about emotions, not the mechanics or the processes or the words associated with finding work. And so consequently, it's a little bit different kind of a career webinar than the previous 5 that we have had. And yet it's critically important, especially for those who have little or no experience with the job market. I want to explain even the title, Demystifying the Fear. In the last webinar that Beth Holland participated in July, people reached out to her, sharing their fear and negative self-talk that we all can experience. Fear can fuel inaction and procrastination and affect our confidence. The team at the AAA thought that it would be a good topic to bring to a webinar. Beth is part of an international organization called Women Within. It's a nonprofit community that offers a variety of personal empowerment programs to help women know, embrace, and lead from their truth. And an important part of this work is to help women connect to their emotions. Today, 2 of the leaders and coaches from Women Within will be leading this webinar. There is also a brother organization called Mankind Project with a similar mission and set of practices. So even though this webinar is being presented by women who support women, the principles can be applied to all genders. In this webinar, we will first create a shared understanding of the emotion of fear and shame. Then Alison will lead us in a visualization experience to shift the messages that do not serve us. And we will end the webinar with practical strategies to implement the information to your job search. Next slide, please. We have two important sources that you can search online. The first is Brené Brown, a research professor at the University of Houston. She has spent the last 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. And her latest book is called Dare to Lead. A second source for you is Daniel Goleman, a psychologist and science journalist. His book, Emotional Intelligence, was on the New York Times bestsellers list. Next slide. So I would now like to turn it over to Alison Davis and Jeanine Baker from Women Within International.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, my name is Alison Davis, and I'm a white woman with long blonde hair and eyeglasses, and I'm sitting in my home office in France.
And go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Alison. Yeah.
We understand that you are searching for a new job or career, perhaps, at this time. And what we know is that major life changes can bring up feelings such as anxiety or fear. Feeling fear or anxiety is completely normal as we take a step into the unknown. And our intention today is to explain how emotional intelligence helps us identify feelings and understand how to navigate them.
Next slide, please. I am Jeanine Baker, and I am a white woman with curly, light brown hair, and I'm sitting in my home office in Houston, Texas. As Alison stated previously, feeling fear and anxiety is normal when we are stepping into the unknown, and also when we will experience fear, often when we're stepping into the unknown. And our response may be, next slide please, a fight, flight, or freeze response. The fight, flight, or freeze response are our body's natural response to fear. Our body has a stress response that reacts to perceived threats or real threats. We have hormonal and physiological changes in our body with the fight, flight, or freeze response. When humans are faced with the unknown, this is when the fight, flight, or freeze response occurs. And this response may instantly cause hormonal and physiological changes. Examples could be, we could start sweating, our skin could become cool, our skin will be pale. We'll notice our heart increase, our heart rate's increasing. When we are in the flight response, we want to save and preserve ourselves. Our thoughts may be, this job application is too long, it's too difficult, it's too complicated, it doesn't make sense. I do not want to apply for a new job. It just isn't fair. That's the fight response. When we are in a flight response, we want to escape the overwhelming threat. We want to run away. We want to turn off the computer when we see a job application come in. And we want to do something totally different to escape And when we are in the freeze response, we do nothing. We are not looking for our job. We may be hiding under our duvet and not even getting out of bed or our pajamas. Whatever response that you may experience, it usually involves feelings. And in order to navigate this journey with our feelings successfully, we need to call on our emotional intelligence. Alison?
Yes, this is Alison. Next slide, please. The definition of emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and the ability to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathically. So emotional intelligence enables us to monitor our emotions, to discriminate between different emotions, to label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide our thinking and behavior. We need to be willing to feel our feelings, to clarify what we are feeling, and to understand what these feelings are telling us. As we become more and more emotionally intelligent, we tend to experience that fight, flight, and freeze response much less. And we're able to go directly to our feelings, feel them, and identify what they're telling us. So let's explore what these feelings are likely to be. Over to you, Jeanine.
Yes. So there's next slide, please. There's 5 major categories of feelings. And they are, next slide, please. Oops, I've lost my connection. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. I lost the connection totally. Sorry, excuse me. The 5 major categories of feelings are sadness, anger, fear, shame, and happiness. So that we imagine that some of you are feeling sad or angry and possibly shame that you're in this position of needing to find a new career or a new job. And you may also be happy that you're being forced or are in a place when you're having a new career. So if you're feeling sad at this time, you are probably feeling a loss. Something has been taken away from you. And that is what happens with sadness. Something that you had before has been taken from your life. If you're feeling anger, you may be acknowledging that something has been taken away from you that you did not want taken away, and that you worked really hard at your career or whatever it is that you're feeling this anger about, and it's gone. One is annoyed and shows displeasure and possibly can have some hostility. If you're feeling fear, you may be feeling threatened or unsafe, or you may imagine something totally worse than what is really happening to you, or that something is dangerous in your life. Next slide, please. To describe the shame feeling, I'm going to use a quote from Brené Brown. And the quote is, "Shame is an intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging." So that's Brené Brown's quote. So if you are feeling shame, you may possibly having these types of thoughts. I am not good enough. I am unworthy, and I am a failure. I'm not good enough. I'm unworthy, and I am a failure. I will turn it over to you, Alison.
Yeah, so thank you. This is Alison again. So let's look at how to navigate these feelings of first fear and then shame. When we're feeling fear, we feel unsafe. And one of the ways to navigate fear is to create safety for ourselves. For me, fear can come up when I'm starting something new. For example, when I've applied for a new job in the past, or when I've taken an exam or gone for an interview. And the way I create safety for myself is to reach out to someone I trust for support. I share what's going on, and together we identify my feelings. We work out what they're telling me, and then create the safety I need in order to move forward. And I generally receive this kind of support from my coach. With her help, I've also learned to identify and value my gifts and to connect with my wise, resourceful self. To you, Jeanine.
Thank you, Alison. This is Jeanine. Oftentimes, underneath the fear is anger or shame. And shame is much more difficult to identify and understand and for us to work with than any other feelings. Our shame-based beliefs and our messages were created outside of our conscious awareness, and usually at a very young age. The shame messages are in a response to our childhood experiences, our family, our culture, religion, and everyday life events. These shame messages create a sense of unworthiness and a false sense of self. We get these shame messages from others, and the layers of shame hide our true self. We continue with the beliefs that we aren't good enough, are defective, aren't lovable, not worthy, are an imposter. We live in a shroud of shame. We wear masks to hide our true selves. And shame blocks and stops us from reaching our full potential. So releasing these old stories or messages about who we are enables us to show up in our authentic self and enhances our ability to succeed in our lives. When shame comes up for me, when I have applied for a new position, the common message that I hear is I am not good enough, and that someone else who's applying for the same position is more qualified and better than me. I feel like I'm an imposter. I have a message that I am a fraud. Next slide, please. So I have another quote from Brené Brown, and as you're imagining, she is the guru of shame. The next quote is, shame is the most powerful master emotion. It's the fear that we are not good enough. When we are experiencing shame, oftentimes we can show up as perfectionist, never letting anyone know, coming across that we're perfect. Or we can be angry, we can feel like a victim or a martyr, feel very alone, and then we possibly may isolate. So how do we break this shroud of shame to experience the gold of who we really are? How can we find strength by exploring our limited beliefs? Next slide, please. Another quote from Brené Brown. Shame derives its power from being unspeakable. If we name it and speak to it, we basically cut it off at the knees. The Brene Brown says that there's 3 components of shame. And those components are secrecy. We keep our shame silent. And then we keep our shame silent. And then there's judgment around our shame. So secrecy, silence, and judgment. Shame does not like to be talked about. Shame conspires us to keep our secrets. To rid ourselves of this shame, we must tell our story, or the messages that we believe about ourselves, the false messages, to a trusted person and let go of these secrets and the silence. So let's begin to acknowledge our shame. Alison?
Yes, this is Alison. So I'm going to be guiding you in a visualization exercise. This exercise helps us see things in a different way. So Jeanine talked about talking to someone you trust about what's going on for you. I'm going to show you a way to work with yourself. And this is through a dynamic relationship with ourselves. We can support ourselves to shift from shame into presence, growth, and power. Because the shame-based meanings we make up hold us in a fixed mindset where there's absolutely no possibility of growth. Where there is shame, growth is shut down. But when we reconnect to our power, we can break through stories and patterns that block us, that may have been blocking us for a very long time. And when we do this, we open up possibility. We can learn how to use our power on our own behalf by bringing it into relationship with the less powerful parts of ourselves, the parts that have been isolated and stuck in these old shame-based meanings. So let's do the exercise. And if you feel comfortable, just gently close your eyes and sense the part of yourself that shows up powerfully for a friend or for a loved one or elsewhere in your life where you are in touch with your strong, resourceful self. Just think about an area of your life where you are capable. It might be in your professional life, the place where you feel that you're really good at something. Take a step into that part of you that is capable and powerful. And fully breathe into that space, that capable space. And allow your body to expand and your chest to open. Just take a moment to really breathe into that feeling in your body. And as you breathe, notice how this place feels. Sit in the way you do when you feel that powerful. Breathe as you do in that state. Listen as you listen. Now bring in empathy and compassion. Your ability to comfort, support, and love. And bring in your capacity to be an impartial observer who can hold different perspectives. And now, notice any parts of yourself in your body that might be feeling self-doubt or feeling that you're not good enough or don't deserve to have what you want. Connect with one of these parts. And allow the wise, loving presence that you are. Turn towards this less wise, less assured part of yourself with empathy. Allow your heart to open and be touched, feeling empathy and love for yourself. And have the wise, loving part hold and connect with that part of you that is stuck. Continue to breathe. And as you breathe and connect, notice the softening of that stuck part. And just allow your breath to help soften even further. And just ask yourself, what is the deeper truth about who you are? What is the deeper truth about you? And create a statement for yourself beginning, I am. For example, I might choose, I am capable, or I am resourceful. The deeper truth is that I am wise, I am powerful. And just remember this statement, this I am statement. And if you have a pen handy, write this statement down now. And maybe later you might like to write it on a card. And then place the card with this statement written on it, so it is visible on your desk as you work, as you apply for jobs, as a reminder of what the truth really is about you. We need to remind ourselves who we really are, beneath the shame, beneath the limiting beliefs that pop up. So this is something you can do anytime, just taking a few minutes alone to connect your wise, resourceful self, your capable self, to the stuck part that's coming up. And just allow it to soften and reconnect. And you'll begin to feel strong again. So now it's time to end this process and begin to come back to the room. Please be gentle with yourself as the day goes on and drink plenty of water. Continue to connect with your wise self. And as I said just now, when you feel your limiting beliefs come up, allow your wise self to send empathy and love to these stuck parts so that they can reconnect. And you can step into the new belief about yourself you've just identified. Over to you, Jeanine.
This is Jeanine. Thank all of you for this opportunity for Alice and I to be with you today. We hope that we have helped you on the journey of beginning to demystify your fears as you each continue or begin your job searches. And we wish you well on your journeys. Next slide, please. And if you would like more information and support, feel free to contact Alison or I through our website, and it's the www.womanwithin.com. cultivate.org/coaching. So thank you all, and I will hand it over to, I'm handing it over to Elizabeth, correct?
Yes. Next slide, please. This is Elizabeth. So we have some additional strategies for you when there is a moment of stress that arises in your life. This particular slide is showing a lighted light bulb, suggesting that moment when a new idea comes to mind. Next slide, please. So as Alison and Jeanine so nicely articulated, the first thing you need to do is recognize that fight, flight, freeze set of responses in your body. And what you're doing is you are turning inward, you're naming the emotion, and in doing so, that is already an important step forward. Keep in mind that fear feeds imposter syndrome. For those who've not heard of imposter syndrome, we have a definition: simply feelings of inadequacy that last despite your evidence of success. And then finally ask yourself about your deeper truths. In other words, who you really are. Next slide. A second strategy is to cultivate your strengths. Where do you think you stand out from your teammates, your workmates, your classmates? Think about what your colleagues or your clients say about you. Certainly, they're going to be saying some positive things. Start with what they're telling you. It's data. And then gather other insights from perhaps performance evaluations you've had or comments that people have made about you, messages from emails. And from all of that, start creating your own positive messages about yourself. Next slide. A third strategy is to use those I am statements a lot. So first, think about incorporating I am statements right into that job interview or LinkedIn profile or web page, or even in conversations with people that are part of your network. Do the I am exercise to inform how you might answer what is your key weakness? What is your key strength? Keep a list or an inventory of the positive messages that you know to be accurate about yourself. And then reframe the imposter syndrome. And when you do that, you should end up thinking and believing in yourself. Your body will follow through on your thoughts. You don't have to feel confident to act confident. Next slide. And the last strategy, pretty simple: practice, practice, practice. Who do you practice with? Well, we all have friends. Hopefully we all have mentors, an old teacher, a clergy person, a mom, anybody in your life who cares about you. Have them work with you. Practice questions that you believe that you will get in an interview setting. Practice your responses. And then use all of these kinds of opportunities to be aware of the fight, flight, or freeze responses. Next slide. So now we come to the chat. And Jeff, I think we have a few minutes to try to answer some of the questions.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Elizabeth. From what I'm seeing with the questions, thank you. That was a great presentation. But a lot of the questions want to take it into what they are seeing as kind of a more practical response. And that is, while it's up to us, it's also, they want to talk about how the job market is under a crisis. You know, how it looks with the crisis that we're facing, not only for just 2020 in general, but within the field in general. And this has been taking place over, not just in 2020, but over several years. So they were kind of saying, demystify how one goes about approaching employers for jobs when there are just cutbacks everywhere and global slowdowns. And that's for all presenters.
Jeanine or Alison, would you like to take that?
Well, what I would say from my perspective as a coach and facilitator, and also a career coach, is that it's quite a lot also about our beliefs and what it is that we believe is possible. I have a lot of experience of, you know, having positive beliefs, going about the job search, looking for what it is that you really want and going for it anyway in a very positive way, rather than shutting ourselves down and having the fear come in. In these questions, I'm very conscious that fear is present there, and just approaching it from a very positive perspective and believing that we all have unique gifts and talents that we are here to offer to the world. And if we approach it from that perspective, someone out there wants what you have to offer. And if you persevere with, you know, grit and resilience and a positive attitude, you will find that person who wants you, who is just waiting for you to apply and work with them. That's one response that I would give as an energetic approach.
And I will dovetail on Alison's response and honor the people who are asking these questions. Is sometimes for people that I've worked with and for myself personally, if I have a fear, to verbalize it, to get it out, to share it with someone else. Because if I keep it, you know, keep it quiet, it can get bigger and bigger and bigger. So verbalize my fear to someone I trust, and then move in past that and move in to what Alison so eloquently stated about having that true belief in yourself. I don't know if that helps. Those aren't concrete, like tick, 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 but those are suggestions.
Yes. Oh, sorry, Elizabeth, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if Jenessa had something that she might want to say in response to that question. If not, I have a thought. In terms of the job market under crisis, yes, we are clearly in crisis mode all around the world. However, the kind of work that I think every single person on this webinar either does or wants to do is knowledge work. That is, you are not building cars in a factory. You are not a construction worker. You are someone who works with people, someone who has a lot of knowledge about how people think, about the fact that people do different, engage in different behaviors, respond in different ways. And that there are jobs for people in that area. I know 3 people, 3 friends, colleagues of mine who have gotten jobs during COVID. And I don't know anyone who hasn't. So I think it is partly a function, whoever asked the question may be fearful that that's all you hear in the media or in the people that you are speaking to. And I basically think that it probably is inaccurate.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think it doesn't matter. What you're saying is, I mean, it does matter, but it comes down to you. This is one of the worst years we've had in a long, long time, but it's been this way, as I said, for years. It's not just 2020, so it does come down to you. I will also share that my mother always told me persistence is better than brilliance. She must have known something about me in giving me that advice. So what they're also looking for is one thing I want to address, and Elizabeth, this will be for you to help us out with. And again, Jeanine brought this up, and that is concrete examples, concrete steps. There are items out there that are preventing us. It's ageism. It could be people switching fields. This has always been within the field of anthropology a concern. And I bring up Elizabeth because we addressed that in a lot of our previous webinars. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we had 4 webinars in the month of July. And there are a couple in particular that might be useful on this point. The first one is on networking, the value of networking to get into a network that is different from the one that you are in, because it is in those unknown networks that you will experience new people and new opportunities. And then a second webinar that probably will be useful is to the 4th one that we had in July, which is on the job interview. And there's a lot of good information in that. There are also responses to the chat questions from those webinars that are posted alongside each of the recordings of those webinars.
How long are you going to be talking? Because my call.
Hi. My name is Daniel Ginsberg. I'm the Director of Education and Professional Practice at the AAA. I guess if you can't access the visual, I'm a male-presenting white person with glasses and a purple suit jacket, and you can see some windows behind me, and my hair's kind of in my eyes. My colleagues asked me to come on and participate in the Q&A today, where I think what I'd like to do is to voice some of what I'm hearing about this from the community of anthropologists and talking about some of these really like affective issues that might come in when you're talking about the job market. I noticed that we started by talking about Daniel Goleman, who's a psychologist, and Brene Brown, who's a social worker. And they're coming from a really different background to what a lot of anthropologists are coming from, where we're really trained to look at things in terms of structures and systems and how the situation is what it is. I can feel positive about it, or I can feel badly about it, but that doesn't make jobs appear. And so I guess what I would say, and this is something, you know, even if I go to a therapy session for myself, I find myself laughing at myself as I'm talking to my therapist and saying, oh, this is, you know, I've been to graduate school, and so of course I'm going to talk about social theory. This is how I process things, right? And so I wonder, I hate to ask people to speak outside of their own area of expertise, but really, if what we're hearing from members and in the chat is that we're in crisis, we've been through crisis before, people can find jobs in a crisis, but at the same time, if you've been, let's say, working as a contingent faculty for a number of years and hoping every semester that enough students turn up that you can keep your job. I think if I'm that person, I would be frustrated with the advice that would say you just need to think positive. And so I wonder if there's a way to reframe it in a way that anthropologists might find a little bit more relatable.
It's open to all presenters.
This is Jenessa. My profession is as a consultant to nonprofits, government agencies, and many organizations that are deeply impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We expected, as a small firm, really small shop, to really have a difficult year. But we are in the business of helping solve real complex human problems. And it is, as Elizabeth was saying earlier, it is the role of anthropologists to be able to ask questions, make connections, think creatively about how to solve these complex problems. So I would agree with what Elizabeth said earlier and say that we are well positioned to make a case for our role in solving these. And that it's, you know, part of that is being able to find your voice and finding that confidence. So it's really, it's both and, right? It's not just the system, it's how you interact with that system and your willingness to engage and make changes to what you see happening. And part of that includes networking as well.
I do see one question in there about what the AAA can do for the community, and the answer is always more. We can always do more. But I also want to direct people to our ACE careers section on our website for job postings. I know it's not enough, it's never enough, but you will find helpful information there.
If I could offer, I guess, an answer to my own question, and this is not really comprehensive, it's just sort of speaking from my own professional experience. But I think my read of some of the questions that I was reading on here and also in some of the social media chatter around this webinar is that people have been taking exception to the idea of limiting beliefs. It's a phrase or a framing that might not be familiar to people or might be uncomfortable because you could read it as implying that what's limiting you is nothing more than your beliefs, which I don't think is ever really the case. There are real material limitations, but that's not to say that there aren't also beliefs that limit us. I think that one thing that's implicit in a lot of the way the questions are framed to say, how can you talk to me about limiting beliefs when there's only 2 tenure-track jobs in archaeology? The idea that I'm only qualified for tenure-track jobs in archaeology is also a limiting belief. There are any number of things that one might do with advanced degrees in anthropology. And my advice to people tends to be that you can use your anthropological training to find out what those opportunities are. That's a way to sort of build from a position of familiarity and a position of strength. I think one of the sources of fear for a lot of people is to say, I have been on this professional sort of launch glide pathway into a tenure-track job for maybe a decade. And now I'm seeing that there isn't one there for me to arrive at. And so that's where a lot of the fear comes in. And I think, given that we're coming to this with some level of research training, the way that I would encourage people to respond to those fears, I mean, I've said, just speaking for myself, that one of my own coping methods, my coping methods when I'm in an uncomfortable or difficult situation is to turn everything into field work. You know, I'm at a party, I'm socially anxious. People are there that I don't want to talk to. I would rather sit in a corner or leave, but I have to stay for reasons. And so I'm going to pretend that I'm doing an ethnography of this party, and I can make that flip in my head and feel a little bit less awkward. It's sort of a mundane example. But the counterpart to that when we're talking about job searches is to say, let's pretend that I'm not trying to figure out, you know, pretend for half an hour that I'm not faced with a life or death question of how do I pay the bills, but instead we're faced with an ethnography of whatever people might do with degrees in anthropology, or whatever people might do that I'm interested in and care about and can see myself making a contribution to. How might I learn who those people are? How might I talk to them? These are basic questions of anthropological fieldwork. And if you can turn it on your own job search, things might come available or even sort of become visible to you that might not have been visible before. And to think of it maybe as a research project rather than as this sword that's about to fall on your head, like in the myth, even just for a little time, maybe something will turn up and maybe it won't. But I think as far as limiting beliefs, I don't know, that's how I would tend to think about it. That's how I would answer my own question.
Okay. I think I see we have a few minutes left. So Elizabeth, you want to wrap up and then hopefully bring us to the next week's webinar as well, which will hopefully bring this discussion forward. You're on mute.
Okay, so we'll just summarize quickly here. Recognize the fight, flight, and freeze responses. Cultivate your strengths and create positive messages. Use the I am statements and practice with a mentor or friend. Next slide. Jenessa, did you want to end this one?
So just as a reminder, everyone, please complete your evaluation of the webinar, which will be emailed to you. You'll be able to see today's materials under the September 17th webinar on the AAA website, and everything will be up in just about a week's time. And don't forget to look out for the next career webinar coming your way next week. Thanks, everyone.